Hello, everybody. It's been a while. So tonight's book review is Treasure Island. Original title is The Sea Cook, a story for boys. Not really a story for 74-year-old ladies. The Scottish author is Robert Louis Stevenson, who is from Scotland, but he actually lived here in Monterey, our town, for a little while. The book was published in 1883. It was set in the 1700s, and like almost every book we've had so far, it was serialized in a magazine. This magazine was a children's magazine called Young Folks, and he wrote under the name of Captain George North. I think it's so interesting that in the 1800s, people used to get mail a couple times a day. I remember when I was a kid, we would have morning mail delivery and late afternoon mail delivery. And we looked forward to the mail because we would actually get letters and all kinds of interesting things. And mail delivery today just has none of that charm. But back then, people would subscribe to magazines and newspapers, and they would just be thrilled to read these stories and couldn't wait for the next issue to come, just like watching serialized television. This book, Treasure Island, is responsible for almost all the common ideas that we have today about pirates and pirate life. The idea of eye patches, peg legs, desert islands, treasure maps, chests of golden doubloons, sunken ships with doubloons, parrots. All this comes from Treasure Island. In fact, the very popular movies, Pirates of the Caribbean, almost the entire vibe comes from what we read in Treasure Island. So I'm going to read about the characters. I'm not going to say too much of them. We'll hear more about them in the upcoming synopsis. So the main character is Jim Hawkins. He's the narrator. And he's a young boy. He's about, 12 to 14, about the same age as my grandson Sam. So Sam, if you're watching this, don't become a pirate. Jim and his mom live and work at an inn on the English, maybe the Cornwall coast. Next is Dr. Livesley and Squire Trelawney, who I'm going to call the doctor and the squire. They are the adults in the story. The most famous character is Long John Silver. He is the ship's cook. That's why it used to be, the story was originally called The Sea Cook. He had a peg leg and a parrot. And he was not what he appeared to be when he was first comes on the scene. And there's a ship involved, obviously, and the captain is Captain Smollett. In the early part of the story, a disreputable, terrifying character named Billy Bones moves into the inn and never pays rent, and everybody's terrified of him. And he has a mysterious trunk up in his room, which no one's allowed to see. Everyone's interested in that trunk. And lastly, Ben Gunn. Our cast of characters eventually make it to Treasure Island, and Ben Gunn is a castaway there that they find. So the synopsis. Billy Bones, who I just mentioned, is a disreputable alcoholic guy with a mysterious past. He moves into the inn. He tells loud, terrifying stories and never pays his rent, and everyone's too scared to kick him out. It originally appeared that the people coming to stay at the inn would decline because they were scared of him, but he told such fascinating stories that actually people came to drink at the bar there just to hear his crazy stories. Well, the inn is attacked by a gang of people that we eventually are going to realize are pirates. It seems they're interested in his trunk up in his room. But they are chased off, and Bones dies of a heart attack. Well, the moment he dies, Jim and his mom beat feet up to his room and look through the trunk to see what they can find. They don't find any treasure, but they do find a treasure map. Jim shows it to the squire and the doctor, who have some money apparently, And they're like, wow, let us go to this island and see what we can find. And so they decide to buy a ship, which they do. It's named the Hispaniola. So the doctor sends the squire off to the docks, and tells him to outfit the ship. Find a good ship, buy and outfit it, and hire a crew. So he hires a captain, that's Captain Smollett, and then he hires the cook, Long John Silver. And Long John Silver is a very charismatic, charming person, and he says, well, Squire, let me hire everyone else. And he does, and that was a big mistake. So he hires everyone else. You will not be surprised to know that Long John Silver is the chief of a crew of pirates, and all the people he hires to work on the ship are pirates. Because somehow Long John Silver found out about the map. And how did he do that? Well, that was because the squire turns out to be a big blabbermouth. He was telling everybody about it. Everybody found out about it. He was told to keep it secret, keep it safe, but he couldn't. So Jim, our narrator, is hired as a cabin boy, and now they have a full complement. The crew has a full complement. And off the Hispaniola goes in the general direction of the Virgin Islands to find their treasure. Well, Captain Smollett is right away suspicious of Long John Silver, who he knew a little bit about, and the crew. And he warns the squire and the doctor, but they're at this very optimistic stage people have at the beginning of a project. They didn't want to hear anything bad about it. So they're kind of, let's do, that's probably all right. But Jim was fishing for an apple in a barrel, and he fell in. While he's at the bottom of the barrel, Long John Silver comes into the room with the crew that he hired, and he discusses their plans that they're just going to use the squire and the dock and the Hispaniola to get to the island, and then after they recover the treasure, they're going to kill them. And in other words, what Captain Smollett thought all along. So Jim tells this to the squire and the doctor, and so what they're going to do. They figured they aren't going to kill him until they get to the island because they need Captain Smollett to, well, they need them. So they get there. So they finally make it to the island, Treasure Island. And the pirates, now everyone now knows what's going on. Everything is made manifest. The good guys and the bad guys clearly know each other. And so the pirates stay on the ship, and our heroes take up residence in an old abandoned stockade. So the good guys at this present time would be Captain Smollett, the doctor, the squire, Jim, and a couple of the doctor's servants that came along. And there's about 15 pirates. Over the course of fighting and all, the number of pirates diminishes. A lot of pirates get killed. So things seem to be at a stalemate for a while. Jim sneaks away and does some exploring on the island, and he discovers Ben Gunn, the castaway, who's been there for years, apparently. Now, who is he? Well, let's look into where this treasure originally came from. It didn't just grow there like a toadstool. Someone brought it and planted it. And there was a famous pirate named Captain Flint, and he and his crew buried this treasure on this island, and he pretty much killed all the people who knew where it was and took off and died. So Flint and his group are no longer in the story, but Ben Gunn, who they left on the island, knows all about it, and he knows where the treasure is. He digs it up, hides it in a cave. He figures someday somebody might show up, and they did. So meanwhile, Jim, through some rather amazing gymnastics, manages to get aboard the Hispaniola, and there's only one pirate left on there keeping guard, and he manages to bamboozle him into floating the ship to another place. In other words, Jim manages to take over the ship. Well, there's still quite a few pirates left, and they defeat the folks in the stockade. They steal the map, and they take Jim hostage. And they go, follow the map, and all they find is a big hole in the ground. The treasure's gone. Well, we know why it's gone, because we know Ben Gunn, years ago probably, took it and buried it in a cave. But and then Long John Silver, being a suspicious person, was bamboozled by some ghostly sounds. Ben Gunn was making ghostly sounds, pretending he was Captain Flint. And in this, he was so bamboozled that the doctor and Squire were able to rescue Jim, and that's pretty much the end of the story. So the good guys get on the ship with the treasure and with Ben, and they bring Long John Silver along too. I think he's the only one left. He escapes with some money, but not much, and our heroes are wealthy people from henceforth. So that's the story, pretty simple. I did watch a movie. I watched Treasure Island 1999 with Jack Palance as a very convincing Long John Silver. And it proceeded apace. I'll follow the story very closely. But at the very end, in this movie, Ben Gunn convinces Jim that the Squire and the doctor are bamboozling him, and they're planning to abandon him on the island and take off with the money all by themselves. So Jim, the idiot in the story, joins up with Long John Silver and Ben Gunn. They kill the Squire and the doctor, and they escape with the treasure. So this is not a very satisfying ending, but a rather modern one. So this is a simple little story, not too complicated, and but it did remind me of a type of story that Treasure Island is similar to, and those are stories that follow a certain plot lineation, and that would be called the hero's journey. This is an idea made popular by Joseph Smith. No, not Joseph Smith, Joseph Campbell. Joseph Campbell. Joseph Campbell. And it has certain steps that many myths, fairy tales, lore, even some Bible stories follow. And generally, I'll just make this really short. Generally, the hero, like Jim, start out with a very humble, simple life. Now, two other stories that you're familiar with, The Hobbit and the whole Lord of the Rings, they also follow the hero's journey scheme closely. So in this story, Jim is humbly working in a rather decrepit inn. In The Hobbit, Bilbo is living in his hobbit hole, and same with the Lord of the Rings. Frodo is living in the same hobbit hole. Just ordinary lives. And then there's a call to adventure. Something happens where the main character realizes he has to get up and go and do something uncomfortable. He has to go on an adventure, as Bilbo says in the movie. So, and in the case of this, poor Jim really didn't have much choice, because I forgot to mention that the pirates burned the inn down. So they didn't have really much else to do. So I don't know exactly, I don't remember what happened to the mom, but out of necessity, Jim did join up with the doctor and the Squire. And so that was his call to adventure. They invited him. And we all know Hobbit, the dwarves and Gandalf called him to adventure, and Frodo actually called himself to adventure. He realized the danger of the ring and realized himself that he needed to leave the comfort of his hobbit hole. So, and most of these stories have a supernatural leader. There is nothing supernatural about Treasure Island. This is the 1800s. They're not too much into supernatural, very much Enlightenment thinking in those days. So Treasure Island, no, the Squire and the Doctor are not supernatural at all. Of course, in The Hobbit, and the Lord of the Rings, they have Gandalf. So they go on their journey. It's not called a hero's journey for nothing. These stories usually do involve a journey. So they go on their journey, and a lot of things happen. And the main characters learns a lot of things about himself, and learns a lot of things about the people he's traveling with. And then there's an end where the conflict is resolved. Usually, Joseph Campbell calls it the ultimate boon, B-O-O-N. Tolkien called it a eucatastrophe, where things look sort of hopeless, but then something unexpected happens, and then the day is saved. So I would say in the case of Treasure Island, it was the boon, the eucatastrophe, would be Ben Gunn having previously hidden the treasure. And so that discombobulated the pirates. And so then most of these stories that go like this, these three stories in particular, when the characters get home, they are generally improved. Their characters are improved, but they are changed. Now, we don't know if Jim's character was improved, but he was changed because he's now a millionaire. And the Hobbit, Bilbo comes back, and he's not too changed, really, but he's wealthier as well. And when Frodo comes back, he's not the same Hobbit he used to be. He's been through too much. He's seen too much. He had the Morgul blade and the ring, and he just wasn't the same person hanging out in the Shire that he used to be. And the elves and Gandalf saw this and took him off to the Grey Havens. So it is fun. So I left out lots of steps. If you read the book, again, Joseph Campbell, if you read the book, which I haven't read yet, and that is one of the reasons it took so long to get this story out, because I plan on reading this book. It's not a short book. This is just a dust jacket. And I wanted to finish reading the book so I could do a really bang-up job doing the hero's journey on Treasure Island. But I realized if I did that, because I have a few other books I'm working on, meanwhile, I would never get the next video out. So, abbreviated version. If you're really interested in this, Campbell himself came up with, I don't know, 15, 20, possibly 30 different steps that happen. Not every single step happens, but once you see it, it's hard to unsee it. Modern stories don't really seem to have this trajectory very well. You're not surprised about that, but he really did intend mostly for this to pertain to lore and myth and fairy tales and legends, things like that, and it fits very well for that. A little update on this blog. I originally said it was going to be 100 classic or books you should read before you die sort of things. But I had a little change of heart about that. Still 100 books, but I have a lot of books back here. I mean, I have way more than that. And I want to read. I have a lot of books on history, philosophy, theology. I want to read those books. And on my list, I had some books that I didn't really particularly want to read. They were kind of like, mid 1900s type, Great Gatsby type books, which I'm just don't care about them. So I thought, well, this is my list. I can do what I want. And so I replaced probably, 15% of them with books I really want to read about history and theology and things like that. And I don't know if those books are going to make it onto the videos. We'll see. For instance, I have a current interest in artificial intelligence, which I'm very worried about. And I've been reading some books about that from a Christian point of view. And I don't see myself making videos on that because I don't know enough about that subject to talk about it in an intelligent way, other than to tell you it's not good, but I don't know how to tell you what to do about it. I have no idea. Nobody knows what to do about it. So anyways, just also want to point out that in the Orthodox world, we are quickly approaching Lent. It just seems like Advent barely ended, but here comes Lent. And next Sunday is the Sunday in our parish where we have blinis. Blinis are Russian pancakes. And when I think pancakes, I think butter and maple syrup. When Russians think of pancakes, they think of pickled fish. So we'll do the best we can with that. And then the Sunday after that, Lent begins. It's Forgiveness Sunday. And off we go. So God bless you all. And I can't advise you enough to go off and find some good books to read. And if you're doing Lent, read your Bible. God bless.